Broadcasting from deep in the Eublepharis galaxy, on a small planet called Geckonia, east of the Albino Hills and south of the raging Leucistic River, comes the one, the only Gecko Nation Radio.
Good evening, citizens of Gecko Nation. It is another great Sunday night, and I'm happy to be here doing the show with you all. And, of course, for tonight's episode, and probably most of the future episodes, we have our new co-host, Mr. Tim Walton. Tim, you're live on the air. How's it going?
I like that you just dropped the y'all because our guest tonight is a Texan, and she'll be dropping some y'alls, I'm sure, when we bring her on.
I actually do use that term, and I'm not even like from the Southwest or anything. And I don't know. It's just an easy, comfortable way of talking. I like it. But yeah,
it's the first time I've heard you pull one of those out, though.
You'll be surprised. I throw all kinds of different words out every now and again, and that I just don't normally use, and some people think I'm, like, joking around, but, like, I say indeed a lot, and I don't know why I say it. It's just an easy way for me to, I don't know, have a conversation. Oh, somebody says something, I'm like, indeed. I don't know. I like that word, but it's funny. Tell us a little bit about tonight's guest, too.
Kristin Tran is our guest tonight. She's the owner of Medusa's Balls, and they mainly breed ball pythons, but work with a few other species, including some geckos, and she's a hobbyist breeder, and we'll have her on to talk about some of her experiences in the hobby and how she got started in the hobby and what she's excited about as the 2015 breeding season rapidly approaches, and
yes,
hopefully here's a new perspective and kind of talk a little bit about some species other than leopard geckos tonight.
Cool. Well, that's I like ball pythons, and ball pythons are really starting to come into their own in a way, and they've
starting
for the last well. Yeah, exactly, right? Well, for the last, I don't know, like decade or so, actually, it's only been a couple of years where a lot of these morphs have really been accessible to the average and new hobbyist that, isn't going out to invest in thousands of dollars. So, in a lot of ways, it's kind of like a new frontier in a sense where, like, now just about anybody can get an exciting, cool morph, multi-combo genes, and have some fun breeding and making other nice stuff, and I think it's pretty cool. I mean, 2, 3, 4 years ago, a lot of these morphs were just out of reach. You just couldn't afford them. $10,000, $20,000. I saw a super pastel vanilla fire on Facebook for $750 today, and something like that even 2 years ago was probably like $5,000. So. I think that's a good thing. What do you think about the pricing of ball pythons, Tim?
I think it'll be interesting. That's something that I wanted to discuss with Kristin, and not so much specifics in terms of pricing, but just
okay.
I actually recently thought about acquiring some ball pythons. More, I like ball pythons, and I've kept them in the past, but I've never bred them, and I wanted to get some experience with python eggs and incubation, and so I was thinking about getting some ball pythons to get that experience, and I looked at a couple of the morphs that I like, kind of the classic morphs, like piebalds and albinos, and I saw an albino ball python, probably like one of my first ones that I actually worked with back in the 90s, and I couldn't believe when people talk about how the ball python market has crashed, and you actually go and look at the prices of these classic morphs, I think it's far from crashing. It's, if you had bought, paid thousands of dollars for these morphs 10 years ago, even if you produced one every other year, you would have, more than recovered your initial investment. And I just can't believe when people say that, use that term, the crash of the market, when, there's still, several $100s for a morph that's been around for 20 years. But I think that's something cool that we can tackle when we bring Kristin on.
Excellent. Yeah, that is a big thing. I mean, it's all perception, from what I can tell, and sometimes people freak out totally unnecessarily about things, and we had a little bit of a freak out with leopard geckos right before September. People really weren't buying leopard geckos at the end of August. It was just, different things going on. I blame it on people getting their kids ready for school, not really thinking about new pets and stuff, and things like that, people ending their vacations and all that. But right after, September, everything went back to normal and gecko sales recovered. So it's ebbs and flows. But yeah, that's definitely something I'd love to talk about tonight with Kristin about. Folks, I just want to let everybody know that the auction for Christina's Pet Sanctuary, I was going to have it Monday through Wednesday of this week, but some of the auctioneers haven't gotten their submissions in yet, and I think I really just need another week to plan this. It's quite an undertaking to get it all organized, and I'm doing it all by myself. So give me another week to get everything straightened out and join Gecko Nation Marketplace so you guys can get in on this great auction. What we're doing is we're getting a bunch of breeders and people out there to donate animals and supplies that we're going to auction off, and all the proceeds are going to go to Christina's Pet Sanctuary. You can check her out at www.christinaspets.com. And she was a guest on the show about a few months back, and Tim O co-hosted for that show too. But aside from that, I just want to let everybody know that Gecko Nation Radio not only loves its listeners, but we love our sponsors too. They are awesome. Check them out, and we'll be right back.
Gecko Nation Radio is a David's Fine Geckos creation and production. You can visit the show's Facebook page at Gecko Nation Radio. I also have a great family-friendly group on Facebook called Gecko Nation. Apply for membership today. Gecko Nation Radio is sponsored by
Reptiles Express is the absolute best live animal shipping company with great low rates. Debbie is the queen of customer service and will make sure your precious cargo gets to where it needs to. They also have a wide array of shipping supplies from deli cups, snake bags, heat packs, and more. Visit reptilesexpress.com and become a member today.
Longhorn Geckos is a father and son collaboration. Daryl and Kate Burton specialize in the best Super Tangelos, Pastel Raptors, white and yellows, and really nice wild types. Follow them on Facebook at Longhorn Geckos and on their new website coming soon.
Ohio Gecko is famous for amazing tangerines, snows, and other very unique leopard gecko projects. Thad also has some incredible fat tail morphs available from stingers to starbursts. Visit him online at ohiogecko.com and at expos in the Northeast. He is also the owner of geckoforums.net.
Dale's Bearded Dragons is your one-stop source for any reptile supply products that you may need, from Exoterra, Zoomed, Rapashi, Repcal, Fluker, and much, much more, and all at 20 to 50% cheaper than your local pet store or big chain pet store. They are also the biggest reptile supply distributor at most of the Northeast expos. Contact them directly online at dalesbeardeddragons.com or message me on Facebook and I'll put you in touch with the owner. And if you're looking for quality food for your dubia roaches, crickets, mealworms, and superworms, look no further than MS2 Premium Insect Chow. Made with reptiles in mind, it contains no dog food, cat food, or chicken mash. Using only vegetable proteins and high-quality ingredients, MS2 Premium Insect Chow will have your feeders making a beeline for it. Contact ms2ent.weebly.com
or it can also be purchased at Rainbow Mealworms and AB Dragons.
That's right, folks, and AB Dragons has a standard discount code for Gecko Nation radio listeners and fans, and that code is GECKO, all in caps. Use it at checkout and get 5% off your order. And basically what you can do, folks, is talk to our sponsors. Tell them that you like the show, and they'll likely hook you up. They like the show, or else they wouldn't sponsor it. So they're probably going to like people and customers that like the show. So everybody likes each other, and everybody's happy, and maybe you'll get a discount. So that's good. So what else is going on, Tim? What is that? What is that one thing that we talk about at every show right in the beginning that's really important?
To get people off of the crappy Facebook and onto the awesome geckoforum.net.
Right, absolutely. So, like, as far as it goes, Facebook is like the kindergarten, and Gecko Forums is like the Oxford University of geckos, and as far as information goes, right? Is that a good analogy?
Perfect, right on.
Okay, yes. So, folks, if you're listening to the show, you're really seriously interested in learning and getting information that'll take you not only your projects to the next level, but also your business or just your knowledge. You're going to want to really get the best and most accurate information, especially on the history of some of these morphs and lineages. That's so important. Especially, if you're going to try to make a business out of breeding animals, geckos, snakes, you need to know the lineage. You need to know the history. You need to know who did what to create what, and that information isn't really found on Facebook easily. So go to Gecko Forums, do your history. It's all there for you. Check it out. And another thing I'd like to mention, everybody, if you like our show and you like listening to us talk about reptiles and have our guests on, you will likely enjoy our affiliate, Herpentine Radio. They do a show every Saturday, and you can check them out. They're also on Blog Talk, and they have a wide array of guests from the community and industry. I'm sure you'll like them. And that's it for the announcements. So why don't we go ahead and jump into the news, Tim? What do you think?
Let's bring on Steve.
Alrighty.
Good evening, Geckonians.
What's up, Steve? How are you?
Pretty good. How are you guys?
Good. And I think it's, why don't we go ahead and make a little announcement. And, folks, I know a lot of you guys love the news segment, but we are going to be transitioning away from doing the news. Steve does a lot for the show with his audio and video work. And, the news stories, reptile news, it's good, it's interesting, but a lot of the stories kind of just repeat themselves, like a snake found in the shower, somebody, Steve, you know him better than me. But, I think it kind of gets a little monotonous. So, we were talking, and we're going to give Steve a break. He's going to take, focus on other things with the show. And, when something important happens with U.S. Ark or whatever, you'll come on and give us a news flash, though, right?
Yeah, we can do that, sure.
Okay, yeah, because that's important. So, yeah, we're going to keep the show flowing, the format flowing, and we're always changing things with the show because we want to keep it fresh and new and relevant to what's going on. So I hope you guys like the new format. So go ahead, Steve. Let's hear what you got for us.
All right. Since you talked about finding snakes in things,
right?
British Columbia, a couple purchased a used Volvo, and the following day discovered it came with a ball python. So
do I know these stories or what?
Yeah. They had Abbotsford's the reptile guy came and set up a heater inside the car, with a bin with three rats in it, and that lured the snake out of the car's dash. So,
oh my God, I can just picture that. That's so funny.
So that's pretty good bonus, I think. You buy a car, you get a free ball python.
Well, if you're not deathly afraid of snakes, yes.
Right, yeah.
I'm sure. What are the odds, though? I mean, percentage-wise, statistically, I would think, only a small percentage of people really enjoy finding snakes in their cars.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind.
No, me neither.
All right, this next article is kind of weird. It's out of the Pasadena Star News, and it reads, "News, political ads are filling the airwaves," and this is the author's view. "The worthiness of the ballot propositions of those running for elective office notwithstanding, it's interesting, amusing to see what buzzwords define the issues. What to discredit someone who is running for office or supports an initiative, easy. Just mention they are in the pocket of a special interest group. No need to mention who these shady groups are. The implication is that they are evil, even though they include lobbying groups such as the United States Association of Reptile Keepers, the American Dehydrated Onion, the Garlic Association, and the California Cling Peach Growers." Now that section, I couldn't believe they included U.S. ARC in there.
I was a little distracted while you were telling that story, Steve. Just rehash it a little bit. What is it?
It's kind of hard to explain, but the main part of it that caught my eye was included U.S. ARC. It says no need to mention who those shadowy groups are. The implication is that they are evil, even though they include lobbying groups such as U.S. ARC, the American Dehydrated Onion, the Garlic Association, and the California Cling Peach Growers.
The Garlic Association should really be considered evil because anytime you eat garlic, it affects your personal life and your friendships and your relationships. So, they should really get on the ball with that. But to call U.S. ARC evil, how could they?
Right?
Why would they? Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
It is strange. It really is.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'd like to make another comment on this. When somebody starts a little business, maybe it's you or me, Steve, or even Tim, or anybody, they usually have the business's best intentions at heart, and they're really happy. They want to do it really well. They probably have a product or something that they put their heart and soul in, and they build their business from there. Eventually, the business gets bigger and bigger if it's a successful business, and it becomes a corporation and a big entity type thing. At that point, the original founder of the company has little or no influence in what actually happens, and it becomes this machine, and there is no more heart and soul put into it. It's just a money-making machine for investors. And at that point, I believe these businesses, quote-unquote, become evil because there's no more of that human, that human feel to it. You know what I mean? And this is just my opinion. So in a sense, these big conglomerates and these huge, corporations and this, you hear all the time how poorly they treat the employees and, working conditions, this and that. And I'm sure the original founder of those businesses, that wasn't their plan for that to happen that way. But, I think it's just a part of, if you feel that that's success and that's where you're headed, I think you have to drop some of your, humanity in a sense to get your company to that point because it's a big machine at that point. That's just my opinion. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah.
Tim, you awake?
Yeah.
With us?
I'm good. I'm just listening.
Okay. But, all right, go ahead.
All right. Our next story is going to go in Newsweek on November 7th. It looks like it's going to be a front page, and this is what it says. Extinct.com. Some of the rarest species on Earth are being killed off by traders on Facebook. So inside the article says the black market trade for endangered animals flourished on the web. I'm just going to read part of it because it's like 15 pages long. But it says that the black market trade is the 5th largest contraband trade, ranking just after narcotics. Excluding illegal trade in timber and fisheries, it nets an estimated $10 billion per year. All of the sales are taking a toll. According to a recent World Wildlife Fund study, 52% of the wildlife population around the world has disappeared since 1970.
Jeez. Wow.
That is insane.
It is insane. Well, there's a new movie coming out about the kind of echoes this story, coming out in the beginning of November. It's called Interstellar. It looks phenomenal. They talk about how a lot of the species are gone, and Matthew McConaughey's in the movie, and people are trying to look for a new place to live other than Earth, and pretty interesting. But if this is the way things are going, Steve, we're not going to have any animals in 20 years. Right? Is that how it's going?
Yeah. Yeah, you look at it that way, if that's half the animals, since 1970, that's unreal.
Yeah. Humans are a big problem on this planet. We need to be able to spread out or find new ways to coexist with the other animals here. And, it's not working the way we're doing it, so something's got to give.
Yeah.
We could do a whole show on that topic, that's for sure. Or more.
Yeah.
But
that was our last story of the night.
Okay. And our last story for a while, right? Except for Herp History. Why don't we take our last trip in the time machine for a while, Steve? What do you say?
All right.
Here goes the flux capacitor.
Okay, I went as far back as I could find about a reptile. So July 10th, 1864, the Lockport Journal, which I believe it's Lockport, New York. I tried to find where, but tells the following horrible story. A woman living in Mercer, the wife of Mr. Evers, has for 4 years been afflicted with a singular difficulty in her stomach. Her complaint was until within a short time past baffled the skills of physicians. The complaint commenced about 4 years ago with a tickling, uneasy sensation about the pit of her stomach. The same sensation was continued to increase in severity from that time. A few months since, it became the incontrovertible opinion of the most skillful physicians that the increasing difficulty has been the growth of a snake in the stomach. It has grown so large now that it distends the stomach so as to produce a bunch up on the outside as large as a quart bowl. Upon pressing the stomach with the hand, the reptile recoils and produces great distress in the stomach. When fish or meat is being cooked in the room, if the snake is not satisfied with food, it rises up in the throat, producing strangulation. When desiring food, it manifests by raising up in the throat. Physicians can see no way in which the snake can be removed without certain death to the woman.
Oh my God, that is crazy.
Dave, I think you could have been a doctor back then.
Yeah, well, you know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of an X-Files episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that is crazy. I mean, you know, there are tapeworms living in people that grow to like 20 feet long, and they exist in people's intestines. I mean, a lot of people don't even know they're in there. They don't eat through your intestines. What they do is they eat the food that you eat, and they live in your intestines. And I've heard of regurgitating these things. But I think the snake that they're seeing in her stomach is her own intestines, perhaps. And, you know, maybe they're seeing that push through the side. Maybe there was a tumor pushing the intestines outward. I don't know. But
yeah, I don't know. But that was July 10th, 1864.
Wow. All right. That's a good story to end us with. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what's going on in your collection, Steve? How's everything going with your guys?
Well, you were talking about the market crash earlier in the show here.
Mm-hmm.
And
wait, Steve, let me correct you. The lack of a market crash.
Right, yeah. I have been taking advantage of it. So a couple weeks ago I picked up a leopard Mojave, a champagne fire. Today I picked up 3 subadult females that will be ready next year, a lesser, a het pied, and a pinstripe het albino. And I also picked up an adult female pastel today. And 2 sulcata tortoises yesterday. So
yeah, Steve, how was the show up there?
Pretty good actually. Yeah, I did real good for the last show.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, we won't be seeing you next week unless there's some kind of crazy U.S. ARC update, I guess, right? We'll talk more about what we'll be doing in the future. So, just want to seriously on behalf of all the listeners and Tim and everyone, Tim could speak for himself, but I just want to thank you very much for everything that you're doing for the show and all the effort that you've put into the news so far. And it really adds a good element to what we do. So thank you very much, Steve.
Oh, thank you. And hopefully this will give me more time to do better videos. So
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. All right.
Definitely. Awesome. I gotta get you guys in them though.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll think about that.
I think Dave's a better actor than I am, so you could use him first.
I was actually in an independent film once. It was a low budget film, but yeah, I'm not really an actor. I've never been trained in acting though, but it's pretty funny. All right, well, Steve, we'll let you go. Thank you very much for everything, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, thank you guys.
Thanks, Steve. Take it easy.
Okay, folks, we're going to transition into the main part of our show now, and we're going to go ahead and bring on our guest, Kristin Tran of Medusa's Balls. You are live on Gecko Nation Radio. Hi, Kristin, you there?
Hi.
How are you?
Can you guys hear me? We're doing really good. How are you guys?
Doing great. We hear a little bit of wind noise. Is there something maybe you can do to clear up the quality a little bit?
I'm outside, sorry. Okay. I just got inside. Can you hear me better now?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah,
awesome.
That sounds much better.
Well, first off, I just wanted to thank you guys so much for having me on the show. This is such it's just so great to even be here right now.
Awesome. Well, we're happy to have you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for agreeing to do the show, especially on short notice. And and we didn't realize that you were doing a reptile show this weekend. It was the San Antonio show, correct?
Yes, it was.
And that's a 2-day show. How did that go for you?
It was really awesome. I mean, every show that we do is just kind of great just because we get to, meet all of the other reptile freaks, and we get to talk about things that, you can't really talk about in quote-unquote real life to normal people because they'll just kind of look at you weird. So it was really good. It was really good. Lots of vendors, and the San Antonio show in Texas is actually known for its hots. So there were a lot of vendors that had hots there. So that's always exciting to see.
Yeah, that's definitely something you don't see every day. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience a little bit? Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in reptiles.
Okay. Well, my name is Kristin Tran, obviously, and I'm 26. I just turned 26. My birthday was on October 6th, so that's kind of exciting. I'm a year over the, quarter mark. But I actually, let's see, I went to college at Baylor, but the love for animals and everything stemmed from way back. I mean, I always loved animals. I always didn't have reptiles as pets growing up, just because obviously my parents, thought it was weird and all that. But I didn't really sought out for it either. So it kind of just started, my earliest memory of snakes or reptile-related things was my grandma actually read me a book, and it was a book that I don't really know where it came from because I was so young. I may have been I was under 10 years old, but I looking at the pictures, and she would just point to this one and be like, ooh, this one's venomous. Ooh, this one's really bad. And, look at how scary this one is. And I was just in love. Snakes were my favorite animals ever since I could remember. And I think a lot of it had to do, ironically, with my parents, when we were in church and stuff, because they were pretty religious. They're Catholic. I was raised Catholic. And they would be like, yeah, snakes are the sign of the devil. Mary steps on the snake, that's the statue and all this. And I just remember thinking that's not fair because, Satan actually chose to be a snake. It wasn't the snake's fault. So I just viewed it as a misunderstood creature from a very young age. And for some reason, I guess I was drawn to that because we all feel misunderstood, when we're children, maybe. But yeah, I was always fascinated with it. I loved watching National Geographic and Animal Planet, back when it was, what's his name? I know Steve Irwin, but there was another one, Jeff Corwin. Oh my gosh, I loved Jeff Corwin. That's his name, right? Jeff Corwin?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, I remembered as a child, I told myself I wanted to marry Jeff Corwin because I thought he was so hot. I remember during an episode, I spotted his wedding ring, and I was really sad about it. But I actually didn't own my first reptile, or my first snake, until I was 21. Yeah, so it hasn't really been that long. But that's what really got me started into the hobby.
It's definitely grown fast for you then, huh?
Yeah, it was on steroids. Yeah, I got bit by the bug, and man, it was horrible. I mean, it's wonderful at the same time. So what happened was I had all types of animals growing up. I had birds, fish. I have 2 dogs. Just all the, gerbils, all the cute stuff. And then on my 21st birthday, I said, I'm going to get a snake. It's my favorite animal. I've had all these other animals. I'd like to, branch out and try something new. And believe it or not, I was deathly afraid of them. Yeah, I thought they were all, I thought they were all venomous. Not all of them, but the majority of them, I thought they were venomous. I thought that, they would strike at you and bite you a lot, and they were just all mean. I just really, I don't know, I was fascinated by them. I watched, National Geographic and stuff, and they would always showcase, the black mamba or, the 12 deadliest snakes of Africa or something, So I had that kind of idea about them. So I did my research. I did a lot of research. I remembered I had notebooks, those cheap notebooks you buy at Walmart, and I would just write all this information that I would learn, like what I needed for them and everything, because I didn't think that I would ever breed snakes. Like that's weird. Like that's not even an idea. I just wanted a pet snake, and so it was between a corn snake and a ball python. And eventually I convinced myself that I would get a ball python. And I told myself, if I'm going to get a ball python and I'm only going to have one snake and they live for so long, it's got to be awesome. Yeah. So I did my research, and while doing my research, I discovered the world of morphs and all this craziness. I was on Nerd's webpage trying to memorize, like, what made what, and at the time, I didn't really know how much they were going for. And so, yeah, but I picked out my favorites, and one of my favorites was the spider, and then I looked up the expo near me, and I'm from Houston, Texas, so there was a Repticon in Pasadena, and I went, and I had a budget of $200, and I bought my first snake. It was a spider, male spider.
That's awesome. So you really went about it in a very intelligent way, and you planned out, you did your research, and that's it's very rare to hear, I think. I don't think I've ever heard someone tell, their introduction to reptiles and the reptile hobby like that. It's, of course, what we recommend to newcomers. It's great to do your research and know what you're getting into and be prepared, but you actually went about it the right way, so that's awesome to hear. And so how did it feel, coming home with the spider, what you obviously wanted to have for a long time?
Oh gosh, I was so nervous. Well, looking back, it's crazy. I mean, I had everything set up too. I forgot to mention that. Funny story, I was living with my parents at the time, because I was going through community college and all that stuff, trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up, even though I was grown up. And I had ordered a terrarium, those Exoterra terrariums. It was like a 12 by 12 inch terrarium. And it shipped in, and my mom was like, "Oh, what's that?" Because she was like, "No snakes. No snakes." Even to this day, she's like, "No snakes." And I said, "Oh, it's a fish tank." She's like, "Oh, okay." And it like opened from the front, and she was just oblivious to it. So that I kept it. I didn't have a tub or anything like that, so I just did that heat pad on the bottom, and I even used like an overhead lamp, which is kind of overkill, but so I had everything set up, and but yeah, it felt awesome, but it was very nerve-wracking. It wasn't like getting a gerbil or a rabbit, because it's a snake, like it's not fluffy and warm, and but I remember buying it. I wish I could remember who the vendor was, but yeah, I remember holding one, and it was wrapping around my hand, and I was freaking out, because I'm like, what is it doing? And the guy said, "Oh, he's just, it doesn't have hands, so it's got to use its muscles to move around." And I just said, "Okay, let's do it." But before I got the spider, I remembered I was so in love with the butters and lessers. Little did I know, like, it was way out of my price range back then. But I would go to each vendor and be like, "Do you have any butters?" Not even knowing what one really looks like, in person. So, but yeah, I was really excited. And I even bought and they put it in those little belly cups that you take home. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, it doesn't have heat." And so I actually went and bought I don't know what you call those, like a cooler? Like a lunchbox type thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did that just so that it would hopefully hold the heat in or something. So I was just super paranoid for my pet snake. And I named him Trouser. So, get it?
That's funny.
Trouser snake,
Yep.
So I was so excited. And yeah, and so that, so I took him home, all that great stuff, and then I kept doing more research. And I remembered I was, how people ask, "Is this a normal? Is mine a normal, or is it something else?" I was just so fascinated at how beautiful a simple spider was, and they are. And I just remember thinking, it's got to be a fire spider or something because it's so pretty. So I did more research, and then I realized that if you take a spider to a pastel, you get a bee. And if you take a spider to a lesser, you get a lesser bee. And I think, if I remember correctly at the time, lesser bees were going for $1,200. And, yep, that's what happened. And then ever since then, I was like, oh, my gosh, I have to make that. I can't afford it. I'd like to make it. And so the following summer, I dropped $400 on a little itty-bitty female lesser, and I also bought a pastel. And then, you know, the rest is history, so.
And then you were off to the races.
That's cool.
Yeah, but actually I didn't start acquiring and breeding until way later on because I transferred to Baylor University to finish off, you know, my education and everything, and so I had a horrible roommate. I would so say her name right now, but that's just not professional. But she was awful, and she did not like my animals, even though she never saw them. I actually kept them in tanks, believe it or not, in my closet. And so, and I know that's probably not the best practice, you know, because if people are afraid of them, you shouldn't hide them, but nobody ever found out. But
was that in a dorm room, or did you have an apartment?
Actually in an apartment. I don't think I could have pulled that off in the dorm room. No. Nope. But, yeah, it was in an apartment. Yeah, so we didn't get random checks or anything, but I was definitely very adamant about, you know, them giving me a 24-hour notice if they needed to come into my house or anything like that. But it came with its own complications because I was using a heat lamp and a heating pad underneath at the time. And I swear, the 2 apartments that I stayed at, I burned the carpet because the heat lamp was on the carpet. Yeah, the first time I was a little inebriated, so I give it that. It's college. But the second time, I don't know how it happened. And I was able to patch it up and everything, so I didn't lose my deposit. But gosh, it made me so mad.
So you never had any snakes escape while you were there?
No, never did. I had even though they were in tanks, which I know is kind of frowned upon. But back then, you know, I never. You know, I'm in college. I'm working 2 jobs and trying to eat anything but ramen. I can't afford like a rack system. But I definitely invested on, well, it's not really that expensive, on like clamps for your screen top for the tanks.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I would put books on top of it, you know, just to be sure, because that would be horrible. But no, none escaped. And so I had the 3 snakes. I had Trouser, which was my spider, a lesser, and a pastel. And then, but I would go to reptile shows just to look. And I remember the pain was real. Like, you know, you really wanted to buy something, but you knew you couldn't. But towards the end of my stay in college, I did buy my first 2-gene snake, ball python, from Brandon Bokey of Priceless Pythons. He's an awesome guy. And, yeah, and I didn't tell my roommate about that one because she was like, no more snakes, you know. Like, you have 3, oh, my God, that's crazy. You know, so, yeah. So that was a graduation gift to myself.
To their roommate.
You know, I wish I did, to be honest, because she got a dog, and she didn't even ask me. And it wasn't even like a little itty-bitty cute dog. She adopted this huge dog that she had to end up, like, giving away or something. It was, I just hate her. And I'm not a hateful person. But she's top 3 on my I hate you list, you know.
Do you still have any of those first snakes that you bought?
I still do. I can't ever get rid of Trouser, ever. He's just a male spider, you know. I still think spiders are great, but yeah, I mean, like, he did breed for me. My first pairing that I ever did was, and I still have him to this day. I mean, I think if I ever got rid of him just because of his genetics isn't as desirable, I would kind of lose, you know, my true passion. all about. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I'm the same way. I'm very sentimental with the animals, and one of my few regrets in life is that I don't have offspring from my original leopard gecko that I got so long ago. You know, it's I guess it's like 24 years ago I got it.
Wow.
And I can't believe that I didn't keep any of her offspring. You know, for that reason. Like I'm sentimental with them, and I totally agree with you and how you feel about your first snake. Kristin, so tell us, you know, how you kind of, you know, I imagine that when you graduated from college, your collection kind of grew and grew and grew.
It exploded. All those years of my parents saying no snakes and all
and your
that.
roommate.
Oh yeah, and her. And of course, you know, we all have to admit, like, this hobby is pretty expensive to keep up with. But yeah, actually, after I graduated, I got a big girl job. Yay! And I remember, let's see, what happened first? Did I buy my first animal plastics rack, or? No, I bought a few more snakes, and then I bought the rack. That's right. But yeah, after I graduated, I remembered going to NARBC for the first time, and because I was in Austin, and so that's a bit of a drive. I mean, it's like 3 hours. It's not bad. But I never wanted to go to a show if I didn't want to buy something, because it got to the point where it was painful to just look. You know, because you're like, oh my gosh, I want this so bad, but I can't. But anyway, so I got a job, got a place to live, all that great stuff, and I was actually renting a small house out in Bastrop, Texas, and it was nice because I didn't have roommates or anything, but of course I had a landlord, so that was a little difficult to hide a snake rack. But I spent a paycheck at the show, and it was great, but I really realized how deep I was into it, because, I mean, I'm a girl, but I don't like shoes or clothes or purses and stuff, and it's okay if you do, that's cool, but my whole thing is snakes. Like, yeah, and so I accepted the fact that I was an addict. So it was great.
And I imagine since you did all that research before you got your first snake, that you also started researching and did a lot of research about breeding. Tell us some of your early experiences with breeding your snakes.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I had females up to size, and actually, like, okay, so I had females up to size and everything, and I think then I wasn't really into all the Facebook groups. I don't know if they existed back then or not. I'm sure they did. They probably existed for as long as Facebook was around, but for some reason I never, you know, I just kind of kept to myself and everything. But I did a lot of research, did everything. One of the greatest websites is Marcus Jane. He has like a breeding pictorial. Oh my gosh, I still look at that to this day. Like, it has pictures and everything. It's very helpful. Did all my research, got all my stuff together. I got an incubator first, even before I started pairing everything. And I had females that were ready to breed, but I did not want to breed them because it would have been my first time, and I didn't want to mess that up, you know. So what I did was I bought a normal breeding size female, and then Trouser, my spider, was going to be the male. And so, because at this point I realized, you know, I got all these other females, I wouldn't ever breed him to them because I didn't want to make the lesser bee anymore. I didn't want to make the bumblebee anymore. But yeah, I knew, like, he had to get something. Like, he had to breed at least once in his life or something. And so I bred those two together. And that was my first trial. And I did everything by that pictorial guide of breeding with the Marcus Jane one. And even then, think I'll ever feel this again, but the first time you ever breed, like your first season, it's very nerve-wracking because every female is different. They all have kind of a blueprint of what it's supposed to look like, but you compare a snake and then a month later, ovulation, there you go. And then some take longer. And so that was really hard because you think you see it, you question yourself, and it was something that I was very passionate about, so I would check on them all the time. I would record the locks, you know, when their tails get together and all that. So it was really exciting, and she gave me 7 eggs. I got 3 spiders, and the rest were normals, so it wasn't the best odds, but I still have a baby from that clutch, and I actually held back a normal female out of all of them because I picked the favorite one because I would candle them, and for some reason, I know it sounds really stupid, but I was like, that's my favorite egg, and whichever one comes out of that one, I'm going to keep. I don't care what it is. And it was a normal female, so, and I still have her, so yeah.
That's awesome. I'm very sentimental, too. I have all kinds of geckos and stuff from projects that, you know, like the first one of this project, and, you know, they genetically, they don't really do too much for me now that the project's advanced further, but, you know, I still feel like, you know, keeping that first one and stuff, you know, it's just, I don't know, I totally get it.
Yeah, for some reason you just have some kind of weird bond to it.
Right. It's weird. It's right. Now,
yeah, and it doesn't have to be like a 4-gene something. I mean, it's just something you like. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that nowadays. And, hey, don't get me wrong, if you want to give me a 4-gene animal, I'll take it. But, you know, sometimes, like, it's okay to be drawn to, like, oh, this is a normal, and it looks amazing. You know?
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
I'm looking on your Facebook page, and your cover photo has those eggs with the little heads popping out. It looks to me like you didn't go ahead and pip the eggs as some ball python breeders do. Can you tell us a little bit about what pipping is, and do you pip?
Me, I try to, but it doesn't work out just because I'm very impatient. Well, you know, if I don't remember that they're in the incubator, like if I'm busy with life and all its stresses, then it's good. But sometimes, like, I look at my calendar for some reason on my phone, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we are on day 55, you know. And there's lots of methods of doing it. A lot of breeders that I highly respect recommend not to cut until the first one pips. And then I've also heard day 55 to 60 is if you have to cut, then cut then. But me personally, I had a clutch this season that I let pip naturally just because I was running a contest on it. The first one pips, you know, if you pick an egg, you get it kind of thing, so I can't really cut that one, even though I wanted to. But the rest of my stuff, I have cut them, on day 55.
Okay, so like for people that are new to ball pythons, pipping is when you prematurely cut open the egg, you know, not allowing the baby to hatch on its own. You actually go ahead and make the exit hole for the baby snake, right? And then it, you know, comes out on its own, or is that basically what
sorry,
it is?
I didn't directly answer your question. You take like a razor, but cutting, it may look very easy, but it definitely is. I mean, you don't want to hurt the baby inside, and but yeah, you would pinch, because when the eggs are ready, they start to dimple or dent in and inflate. And so what I do is you know, you don't want to cut a vein. I've heard that if you cut a vein, it's okay. I personally don't like that because there's blood everywhere, and that can't be good. So what I do is I get an LED flashlight, and I shine it on the egg and try to see where the veins are, like where the major veins are, and then I'll kind of cut there. You just kind of pinch it a little bit and take a razor and just snip it just a little bit. I wouldn't do it too much, just enough to know what you got. And then I let the babies crawl out on their own. And there's actually, I've heard that there's lots of benefits to cutting as well, because I have never had it happen to me, knock on wood, but because the babies can kind of like, what do they call it? Like the cord can get wrapped around their necks and stuff like that, which would actually kill them, or it's very rare, but I've heard that some babies don't develop the egg tooth, and so they can't cut themselves out. But again, that's very rare. So everybody just has their way of doing it, and there's really no wrong way. Just benefits and downfalls to both, I guess.
And basically, for people that aren't really familiar with what we're talking about, it's because these snakes are in captivity, in the wild, perhaps if the snake didn't develop an egg tooth or something happened that conditions weren't just right, the snake would just die. But in captivity, we try to have a perfect hatch rate and have the most survive out of every clutch. And as Kristin described, she's tries to do it with the least amount of intrusion and possible harm to the neonate snake inside the egg. And but at the same time, there are other breeders, and you can go on YouTube and watch videos of people that literally will slice eggs open with a razor blade and rip the snake out of the egg to see the morph or the sex. And then, so it's a very, obviously those breeders are experienced and haven't had any, detriment that they attribute to the way they handle the eggs. But I would definitely err on the side of caution, as Kristin does, and just kind of give the snake a little bit of an opportunity to escape the egg. I've also heard it could be a possibility that the females, maybe put too much calcium into the eggs because they're in captivity and they don't have a perfect diet, thus making the egg, harder and harder for this baby snake to escape from after it's been developing. And So you said you definitely wouldn't cut an egg before day 55. Is that correct for the ball python?
Like personally, or I wouldn't cut before day 55? I don't think. I know people cut early, and I know you can do it. The question that you have to ask yourself, really, and even me cutting at day 55, I still don't know what I get, because the snake is like upside down. So, my whole rule of thumb is day 55 if you can. I mean, the earlier you do it, just got to remind yourself that, it could do more harm than good. And if that a risk, you want to take, and then if something does happen, you're going to be kicking yourself. Like, darn, I should have waited. So I would say day 55 to day 60, closer to day 60 to be safe. If you have the power within you to wait for the first one to tip, that would be the best thing to do. I'm not going to sit here and lie that that's what I do. That's what I'd like to do. But it's kind of hard when you come home from work and you had a bad day and you're like, you know what, they're on day 57. I've waited as long as I could. I'm just going to cut them. So, yeah.
Right.
But day 55.
And your incubation temperatures have to be pretty steady for you to be confident in cutting them at any at day 55 or over. I mean, some people that are using cheap incubators have fluctuations in temperatures and stuff, and that could prolong the development of some of these snakes, I would think, right?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, this year I incubated at lower temps, and so I was at lower temps they develop a little slower, but they're, from what I've heard, is they come out bigger and fatter. And so I tried it and it was great and everything, but in relation to what you were saying, that they could have actually, instead of cutting at day 59, incubated at 89 degrees, me cutting at day 55 at 87 degrees could have actually been, like day 53 or something in development.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
So kind of premature.
Yeah, a little bit, but I've heard of people cutting way earlier. I would just never imagine, but yeah, that's just my rule.
Okay, great. Kristin, we're going to get into some more detail about how you keep your ball pythons and some of your upcoming projects, but we're already at the halfway point of the show, so we're going to go ahead and take a break. And everybody stay tuned. Everybody stay tuned, and we'll have Kristin back after the break.
All right, here we go. Check out our amazing sponsors.
Gecko Nation Radio is a David's Fine Geckos creation and production. You can visit the show's Facebook page at Gecko Nation Radio. I also have a great family-friendly group on Facebook called Gecko Nation. Apply for membership today. Gecko Nation Radio is sponsored by Gecko Boa Reptiles is your source for the highest quality leopard gecko morphs and wild types, from white and yellows to radars, amazing tremper morphs, and rare subspecies. John is a world-class breeder and extremely knowledgeable. If you're looking for something truly special in geckos, contact John Scarborough at geckoboa.com and on Facebook.
Rainbow Mealworms is the largest worm grower in the world and selling to the public since 1956. If you need the highest quality mealworms, superworms, and crickets for your pets, contact them at www.rainbowmealworms.net.
Ron Tremper is the biggest contributor to leopard gecko morph making, known worldwide for his amazing examples of living art. You can now download his Leopard Gecko Care app, his Morph Encyclopedia app called Leopard Gecko Pro, and visit his site, leopardgecko.com, to see where morphs are made.
GiantLeopardGecko.com specializes in giant and supergiant leopard geckos with a focus on selectively bred, exceptional lines of many different morph combinations, including high-end African fattails and crested geckos. With over 17 years of experience in herpetoculture, Keith Kiggins brings you quality, integrity, and value. Check out GiantLeopardGecko.com on the web and on Facebook.
Supreme Gecko is a great source for crested geckos, day geckos, and other species, including micro geckos. Wally Kern is a top-notch breeder and gecko enthusiast. Visit SupremeGecko.com for his available animals and supplies. abdragons.com is your source for the highest quality dubia roaches. Whether you're starting a colony of your own or just need feeders for your insect-eating herps, abdragons.com can't be beat in quality or price. They are also a huge distributor of FlexWatt reptile heat tape and have very competitive pricing. Check out abdragons.com online and on Facebook.
That's right, folks. So make sure you use the code GECKO, all in caps, at checkout for 5% off your order. All right, we are back in our second half of tonight's show with Kristin Tran of Medusa's Balls. So we're going to go ahead and bring Kristin back on the air. All right, Kristin, you're back with us. And,
Hi.
Hi. What do you say? Why don't we talk a little bit about your husbandry and breeding of ball pythons for people that are considering getting involved with that. What do you keep your snakes in these days? I'm sure you've transitioned away from fish tanks, right?
Oh yeah, I do not have a bunch of snakes anymore. So husbandry. Let's see. Sorry, it's just outside and it was really cold. Even though in Texas it's probably not that cold. I think it's like 70s right now. But
oh, that's
anyways, I'm all shaking. I'm like, oh, it's cold. I have my snakes in a rack system. I think it depends. Like, you have a lot of questions to ask yourself. If you want to if you want to breed snakes, the first question I'd ask myself is, do I want to breed a lot of snakes, or do I just want to breed these two pet snakes that I have? And I think a lot of what people are going for is they want to do a lot of breedings. They want to make a lot of cool morphs and combos and all that great stuff. And so the first thing I definitely would advise as a person who's starting off is patience. Patience it's horrible, but you just got to have it because it takes a very long time to kind of build up everything. And anyways, the question is what do you keep them in?
Yeah, let's talk about
I keep them in a rack system. I have animal plastic racks. I've also purchased racks from Jason Miller. He's more local, but he's a JPM Reptiles. He has a page and everything. His racks are really great too. But I find that rack systems are just so much easier to keep and breed the ball pythons in, because if you think about it, ball pythons, in the wild, they go down a rat burrow, they eat the rat, and then they just stay there, and it's a really small space, and it's dark. So a rack system can provide all of that. Not saying that you can't breed them in tanks, but I don't know. I just prefer to have all my snakes in the best that I think it is for them. So I breed them within the rack systems.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. And during the I guess it's cooler in Texas. Like up here in Pennsylvania, it's like today's like the coldest day we've had. It's like 37 or something. It's freezing out.
But, really? I'm complaining about 70s.
Yeah, don't complain. It's so nice down there. I wish I was down there. But
it's windy.
Yeah, but the snakes, they really can sense the change in season. Well, even if you don't necessarily live in a colder climate, they're kind of programmed to know these things, right?
Yeah. Oh, are you asking how do I prepare for breeding season?
Well, that was going to be my next question. Yeah, what do you do this time of year differently than you would do during the summer months?
Well, this time of year, ball pythons, you can breed them year-round, but a lot of breeders, this is the breeding season. And what a lot of breeders will do is they will lower the temps a little bit. So during the daytime, there's so many ways of doing it. I've heard of breeders saying, I just pull the plug on my rack, and there you go, constant all the time. I personally do the normal hotspot during the day, and then at night I'll go down. So 89 during the hotspot, or the hotspot during the day, and then nights I will do 80, 85, somewhere around there. And then also other breeders have just simply relied on, the ambient temperature of the rooms going down. And some breeders, they don't even do a cooling season, and they still have great success. So, I feel like we may overanalyze things, or maybe it's just simpler than we think, but it just kind of depends on, personal preference. But you're absolutely right. During the seasons and everything, I think the snakes just kind of realize it. I think, they can sense it with the temperatures, just the ambient temperatures, and then, the daylight cycles. When you open a door, they can just sense it in the air, so.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds kind of silly, but.
No, even in a rack system where they don't have light, they know night and day. If there's a window in the room, they're going to see the light change.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they'll sense it. They'll sense other things, too.
And I forgot what the word is, but they sense, the pressure in the air between the seasons.
Yeah, barometric pressure. Yeah.
That's the word. There you go. Yeah, and then they sense that. Just by you going in and out of your house and then opening their room, they sense that as well. So I don't really know what makes them tick. For me, I've always lowered the temps like that, during the day, during the night kind of thing. And so I just keep doing that, but it really just depends on what works for the individual.
One of the main, hold on one second, Tim. One of the main problems some people face with ball pythons is them not always wanting to eat. Have you ever experienced that?
I have.
How do you work with that? How do you fix that?
Well, patience is one, and mainly the key thing is that they're known to be picky eaters. Then I just definitely keep. Of course, it's very frustrating when you're trying to get a female up to weight or something. But in general, if you have a pet snake, it's not eating. If you first bought it from a show, then I would definitely give it a few days to a week to kind of adjust. But the first thing I would do is I would check the husbandry of your pet. If you, does it need a hide? What did I do different? Because I've had some snakes to where I would keep them in a shoebox-sized tub, and I'm like, okay, you're getting fat. We need to move you to a bigger tub. I move them to a bigger tub, and then they stop eating. So then I'm like, okay, so it was the change that happened. Move them back to that regular tub, and then they pick up again. So I'm like, all right, well, you like the smaller tub, that's fine. One day you're going to have to move up, but for now it's not that bad kind of thing. So it could be a change of environment for me. And sometimes what I've noticed is ball pythons will go on like a strike around 500 grams, give or take, and then another strike around 1,000 grams, give or take. And I just say that's normal. I'll still offer them food, and if they don't eat, then I just offer it again whenever it's time to offer again. But definitely keep an eye on its weight. If you have a ball python that's not eating but is losing weight and looking a little, then that's when I would start to worry. But I just wait it out as long as the animal still looks healthy. I've had one snake not eat for a few months, and I was pretty frustrated with it. And it still looked fine. It actually still shed. So I was like, okay, that's just your choice. I'll start worrying about you when I start seeing a lot of weight loss and all that. And then just one day she just decided to eat, and she eats every time I offer now. I don't know why she stopped, but, it's just what they do.
I actually had a ball python that was, it was 20 years ago, so it was when they were all pretty much wild-caught, imported adults. And she went, I believe it was a year at least, without eating, and then started eating. And over that year, she still had, like, a healthy body weight. Like, she wasn't totally emaciated. She was still active at times, and it was just incredible to see something like that where it had gone so long without food and it was still healthy. And then she started eating,
crazy.
and it was as if, nothing was wrong. It was as if it was totally normal.
It makes you wonder what's going through their mind, right? Maybe, she was depressed from not being in the wild anymore. I don't know.
She did have parasites. She had external parasites.
Oh.
And we didn't know whether she had internal or not, but we did treat her for internal parasites, and it was shortly after that she started eating. So that's a possibility, but again, we don't know. And back then, it was very elementary, to just kind of, it wasn't even worth going to a vet because vets knew nothing about snakes back then.
Yeah.
So we kind of just took a shot in the dark, and it worked.
That's crazy. Did you have to take her anywhere to give her the shot, or did you just do it?
We took her to a pet store. We were lucky enough to have a local pet store that was, that the owner had some experience with reptiles and had a lot of exotics in the store, and he just did it for us. It was just, I don't know if it was flagyl or panicure, but it was probably one of those two that he just, gave orally, and then and then she started eating soon after that.
And I do wonder if it was just a trip to the store, because I've heard that if you have a ball python that's fasting or is being weird out of the blue, not eating, you can move it from one compartment to the rack to another, or if you have a tank, move it from one side of the room to another, and they just pick up again, or vice versa, or they stop, So, I don't know. I wondered.
And it's very interesting. As you said, some do it, some don't. Tell us a little bit about how you have your reptile room set up, and and how you keep your reptile room in terms of temperatures or lighting.
Yeah, everything's in a rack system. So, and I use Herpstat. I swear by it. I've never used any other thermostat to really know, but gosh, I love the Herpstat. It's very easy to use. And so I use that to control. And I do a 89-degree hotspot. And I live in a house now. I bought my house, when did I buy a house? I think, was it last year? No, Oh, okay. So it was a little over a year ago. So that's been amazing. I don't have to really deal with the landlord anymore. I'm my own landlord, so it's great. Yeah, I used to have them in the kitchen, my racks in the kitchen, just because I wanted to see them all the time. And then I moved it to one of the spare bedrooms. So how I have my stuff set up is I have my main collection in a spare bedroom. And with all the racks and stuff, it does kind of heat up the room. So I think it's great. So I just close the door and it stays nice and humid in the entire room. The ambient temperature in the room is about, I think, 85, 86. And then of course they have the belly heat that's at 89. And then recently my roommate, I had a friend, I was renting a room out. She moved in with her boyfriend. So I have 2 spare bedrooms. And so everyone's like, yay, you have a guest bedroom. I'm like, wrong. I am turning that into a quarantine room. So I think that's going to be awesome. Yeah, I used to quarantine, and I wish I'm more strict with myself with the quarantining stuff, because I do quarantine, and I highly recommend quarantining. But I wish I had a garage or something that was, like, separate from the house, but my house doesn't have a garage. I used to quarantine at my boyfriend's house just because I'm really paranoid. I mean, people are like, oh, yeah, mites are horrible. I'm like, mites suck, but there's so many viruses out there that are 10 billion times worse than mites. And I would just die if something happened to my collection. You know?
Yeah, let him deal with it, right?
No, he doesn't have snakes. He doesn't have snakes, so it's great. And he lives like 30 minutes away, so I'm just like, can I just keep the snake over here for, a long time? So it was great but unfortunately, I mean, I'm not going to like make this story a sad sob story, but we broke up recently, so so I don't have that anymore. But if you're starting off and you want to quarantine, and you have a garage or something separate from the same living space, I would do that just because you can't be too safe. So now that I don't have that access anymore, it'd be kind of awkward to be like, hey, I know we broke up, but can I keep my animals at your house? I have the extra spare bedroom to where I'll be quarantining the animals. So I have 2 bedrooms, so I'm going to start doing that now.
Well, you're lucky because a lot of people don't even can't even quarantine their new animals, that far away. Some people have to do it right in their reptile room. So it's great that you have your own house to do that with.
Yeah.
So what kind do you actually keep an air conditioner or a heater for the ambient temperature as well in your reptile room?
I do not. It's
so just the racks. The racks keep the room ambient temperature at a good gradient.
Themselves, it does. I mean, I would never. If I were to unplug the racks, then the ambient temperature would be cool, just like the rest of the house. But since I just close off that room, it stays pretty humid. Pretty humid in there. Yeah.
That's you're very lucky. We have to. Of course, we have to heat our rooms just to keep the ambient at a decent temperature. Never mind. You're spoiled.
Well, what temperature do you keep your house at?
I keep my reptiles warmer than I keep my son.
Oh. Well, I mean, like, do you like low temperatures in your house, or what do you have your thermostat set at?
Now I keep my reptile room ambient at about, it varies a little bit between about 72 and 74.
Oh, okay. Is your reptile room, separate from your house?
No, it's just, right now it's just my basement. But my bedroom right now gets down to, 60 at night.
Oh, my goodness. That's probably what it is. I think it's your reptile room is trying to fight your AC. Because, see, I guess I'm like a cold-blooded person or something. Because I like 79 for my air conditioner. I get cold really easily. So maybe that's how I'm able to keep the reptile room at like 80-something. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I can't
you have it just
go below
down there.
78. Huh?
So it's perfect down there.
Yeah, pretty much, because I can't go below 78 cool. Yeah,
and
that's too cold.
Do you do any changes with the light cycle, or does the room get natural sunlight?
Yeah, the room that they're in has 2 windows, so they get their natural light.
Nice. So tell us. I know you started talking about it a little bit before the break, but kind of tell us a little bit about what you do now that the breeding season is starting in terms of dropping temperatures. What exactly? How do you go about that?
Well, what I'm doing is, I haven't, so far, the only cooling that I've done is with the ambient room temperature. Work's been kind of crazy, so I haven't really had breeding on my mind too much. I know it's breeding season, and already I'm like, wow, it's already been a year. Oh, my goodness. So actually, after this weekend, I was going to start pairing and then actually setting, because I feel like the ambient room temperature being like lower than it normally is, because I've actually turned off my AC in the house because Texas has been not as hot as it usually is. So I just I'm like, okay, well, this is nice. I can save money on the electric bill, and, and I don't even need to, use my AC because it won't go below, or actually, what am I saying? Yeah, it won't go above 79 now. So the snake room has been a little bit cooler than usual. And what I have been doing lately is I cycle the air out. So I have a little window fan. I kind of just crack a window and put the fan on and just kind of cycle the air out every day, and that keeps it kind of nice and cool. I also have rats in the room too, and that's also why I'm doing it, because I just kind of moved everything since my roommate moved out. So I have the rats and the snakes in one room, the main collection in one room, and so I cycle the air out. And actually coming back from this weekend, because I'm located out of Austin. Coming back from the show, I will probably start pairing them up this week, maybe later on in the week, depending on how crazy my work schedule is. And hopefully I'll see some locks or something. If I don't see some locks, then I think I'm going to set the thermostat to, the high and low cycle. Maybe kind of get them going or something. But yeah.
Nice. And do you take your males and introduce them to the females, or do you do the opposite?
I introduce the males to the females. Yeah. I don't know why. I guess maybe I just always did it like that. So, and I've heard it go both ways, but I'll introduce him to her. And usually I do it. I like to give her a meal, and then I'll introduce him. I don't know where I heard it from, but I heard that it kind of like stimulates the male to be like, oh, okay, here we go. I don't know. I just kind of, maybe I'm weird. I like to do that. And
well,
of course, yeah.
I was just going to say, if it works, it works. So
yeah, maybe it's kind of like her, like, oh, you took me out to dinner. Okay. I feel a little bit more receptive to you. I'll start wagging my tail. So yeah.
And so how many locks do you like to see, or will you just continue introducing the males and females until you see an ovulation?
Locks, I don't really count them via locks. I just introduce them until I see really good signs, and then I'll kind of slow down. But I usually do, what is it? Is it 2 days? No, I do 3 days in, and I think 2 days out. Or is it 3 and 3? I have to look back. I kind of forget these things. But yeah, I'll do like 2 to 3 days in, and then 2 to 3 days out, where the male like rests and eats and does what he needs to do, until I start seeing really good signs from the female. then I am a little bit more lenient, but it's still pretty strictly around then, because even if she's showing signs, that's kind of when you want to keep the male in there. But I definitely stop after I see ovulation.
And what's the gestation period for ball pythons from ovulation until she lays the eggs?
Ooh, I don't know that one off the top of my head. Maybe is it like ovulation, then she's going to have a pre-lay shed. That's what you want to look for. Because after she ovulates, she'll have a pre-lay shed. I got to look at that breeding tutorial. I think it's 30-something days or 40-something days before they lay. But then some females, they kind of hold on to the eggs too. So I think it's like approximately 40 days. I'm not sure though.
That's right.
I should have probably known that.
And in your experience, have you experimented at all with letting a female maternally incubate, or do you automatically just take the eggs and pop them in the incubator?
I've always taken the eggs. I've never experimented with maternal incubation. I've heard a lot of people say that it works just fine. I don't know. I think I'm a little too anal to kind of let that happen. Another big reason.
That's what it is.
What is it?
You like to be in control. That's what it is.
Yeah, pretty much. Because I feel like if I can see it and, I can put it right there and I know it's going to have 90% humidity or whatever humidity and all this other stuff, I just feel more confident about it. But a lot of it, too, is that female to get back on food. It's amazing how tiny they look after they lay. It's just, I don't know, it's just like they're like a bag of skin almost. Well, not really, but it's just you're used to seeing them so big for so long, like, wow, you're building, wow, you're ovulating, you look huge, and then all of a sudden, whoa. So I want that female to bounce back as soon as she can.
Yes, it is a very large percentage of her weight goes into producing the eggs, and then for all the time that she's incubating, if she were to maternally incubate for all that time, it's a huge consumption of their energy, and could possibly, I'm sure in the wild these snakes, don't breed every season.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, so I don't.
Okay, so do you want to talk a little bit about your care for the hatchlings once they hatch out?
Yeah. Once they hatch out, when they all hatch out, I rinse them off, and I clean out the tub real well because there's like snake goo and all of that all over the place. I clean that out, and then I put them on damp paper towels, and I stick them back into the incubator until they have their first shed. Once they have their first shed, then I separate them into their separate tubs, and then they can go in a rack or the incubator, depending on if I'm low on space or not. But usually they'll go into the rack, and I wait about a week or so, and then I offer them their first meal. Yeah, and not all of them will take right away. It's kind of frustrating. So you just have to wait a couple times. And, of course, paper towels as bedding, and I also give them a little hide. Like I'll just cut up a toilet paper roll or something and throw it in there, and a little water bowl. Make sure they feel all nice and secure. And, yeah, and then I hope they take it. I try my best to offer it, like, their first meal, like, later in the evening. And I try to offer, like, a little small mouth hopper that's not too, not too big. Just, like, the appropriate size. And sometimes I'll leave it overnight because some of them are pretty shy. So yeah.
But you usually you start out with offering live prey items?
I do. Yeah, I try to I know you can try other things, but I just feel like the movements attract them a little bit more, and that way you don't have like a huge giant human looming over you with a frozen thaw and tongs, like, come on, come take it. And I just feel like that first meal is so crucial. I just want them to develop that feeding response before I offer, you know, a rat crawler or something frozen thawed. Well, actually, a hopper, I have tried offering small, you know, little rats first, because I prefer my ball pythons to be on rats versus mice, and see if they'll take it. You know, if they take it, that's great, and I keep offering it. But if they don't take it, then I take it out and then I'll wait a couple days or whatnot and then offer the hopper. But I don't always do that. It just depends on the snake.
Okay, great. And I imagine you keep breeding records for your for the offspring you produce?
Yes, I do. I don't just say, oh, all the eggs in the incubator, okay, and I don't know who, you know, who does who or whatever. Because I definitely don't want to, like, I don't know, raise one up and then, oh no, you went to your dad. And, you know, I don't know. I know it could be done. It's just I like to know who produced what kind of thing, especially if somebody's interested in buying a snake as a pet or even as, you know, an investment or whatnot. I know it's really important to know, you know, when did it hatch, you know, who made the pairing kind of thing. And I also have a smaller collection than a lot of breeders, and so it's definitely easier for me to just, you know, to kind of remember that, like, I can just, yeah, if that makes any sense.
Yes, it makes perfect sense. Do you use any of the computer programs for tracking feedings and genetics and stuff like that, or do you just do old school note cards and breeding cards?
I actually bought the Reptile Scan app. It was the most expensive app I've bought, and sadly, I haven't really used it. It looks very easy to use, but I'll have to admit, I'm horrible at technology. I hate it. Like, it took me a long time to get a smartphone, and I still would rather have a dumb phone, just because I like buttons. But, like, it's just confusing. And so it's my fault for not looking into it and seeing how you really do it all. And I think a lot of it for me is, personally, I'm just so paranoid of what is the cloud, or what happens if the app disappears and I can't find my records. Like, I just like to have something physical. So I make like little sheets of cards, and I laminate them and I write it on with a Sharpie. That's how I kind of keep my records. And I need to get better at that too. So, yeah, but I prefer something like pen and paper.
I'm the same way. It's so hard to try to get accustomed to some of that new technology when you don't have a lot of time to dedicate to playing around with it.
I know.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the morphs you work with? You mentioned the spider was your first.
Yeah.
But what are some of the other things that you work with? I have a pretty good variety. I think just kind of sitting here and analyzing that question is kind of cool, because I realized, wow, you know, back when I was 21, or, you know, back when I was looking at YouTube videos of people's collections, I would drool, like, wow, that's so awesome. You know, they have a pied, and I guess it's just kind of humbling. But I work with just a variety of everything. I have a lot of hypo stuff. I love hypo stuff. I used to not care too much for it. I mean, it was just there until I got a ghost female, again from Brandon Bokey. Gosh, that guy. But, yeah, I was just hooked. So I love the hypo stuff. This year I'm diving more into clown stuff. I love the clown stuff as well. It's just the patience of, okay, gotta make hats kind of thing. Same thing with hypos. They're recessive too. But so I have hypos. I work with, just got into the GHI, so that's really exciting. What else? Jeez. I actually really like the het red exanthics.
And it's very confusing to a lot of people just because it's like, so is it codon or is it recessive because it's het red? But it's just a name kind of thing, like saying a pastel is het super pastel. But I really like the het reds and what they do to particular morphs, so that's really cool too.
How does that gene work? I used to have those, and I didn't understand them. I wound up selling them.
Oh, how did it work?
Yeah, how does that gene work? I bought a pair, actually, like 4 years ago, and 3 years ago. And I grew them up a bit, and then I kind of got bored with them, and I wound up selling them. But I didn't know a lot about them at the time, so.
Yeah, it's definitely a more subtle, underrated morph. I mean, it's not super subtle, but it looks very similar to a cinnamon, except I believe, I wish I had, like, a picture that I can show you. But cinnamons are going to have more contrast. Like, they're going to be darker animals overall. The het reds, I know cinnamons have, like, kind of like a black back going on thing, too. Not all of them, but it's one of those things. So a het red kind of has that as well, except the het red, the colors are creamier. That's the only word I can try to explain it. They're just creamier. Cinnamons, their flames will have, like, blushing in between the flames. So do the het reds, but the cinnamon's blushing, I believe, is more contrasted, like white and black, versus the other one has, like, a brown tone in the blushing. I don't know if that makes sense, but a het red is pretty much. So the super form of a het red, so many people ask, and I always compare it to this. The super form of a het red xanthic is a red xanthic. So it's like saying the super form of a pastel is a super pastel. So Corey Woods named it het red xanthic, but it's actually, a codominant gene. It's not a recessive gene. So a het red to a het red would make a red xanthic. Just like a pastel and a pastel would make a super pastel. It's like calling a pastel a het super pastel instead of just a pastel.
Right. Okay.
Like saying het super fire. Yeah.
Right, and then the super form is actually. Because if you take a red
xanthic and breed it to a normal, you would get all het red xanthics.
Okay, and the super form is actually an xanthic. It's a white. It's lacking all yellow pigment. It's just white and black and gray color, right?
No, not the het reds.
Oh no. Okay.
I know it's so weird. Maybe that's why it's underrated, because people just are like, okay, that's too weird. We're just gonna go cinnamon. But no, it's not. It's just kind of like a het red with more pattern, and I just can't. I don't know how to describe it, but it's not your typical like TSK xanthic or VPI xanthic.
Right.
To be honest, I don't know why they called it xanthic. I really don't. I'd like to know. If you find out, let me know. But yeah, it's weird, because they're not recessive at all.
That was some of the problems. Yeah, that was some of the issues I was having with them. I'm like, well, what did I just buy here? I don't get it. And I actually had
but it's one of those things that if you put it to like a pastel, I think they look really cool. It doesn't change it drastically like putting a banana to a spider, but it looks different. It has like a black back kind of thing going on. And it does change it a little bit, but if you put it to a black pastel, then it changes it drastically. It's a gargoyle. And those are really cool.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are. I like them. Well, I mean, speaking of the different morphs, Kristin, what do you think about the ball python market in general and the pricing
actually,
changes
Dave,
that we've seen recently?
Sorry, Dave, can I interrupt you for a second? And I just wanted to hit on one more thing with the morphs before we got moved on.
Okay.
Sorry,
Kristin.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Kristin, are you familiar with any morphs? I know there are kind of more and more of the morphs that are being developed now with ball pythons. Any morphs that better as adults? I know a lot of the ball pythons, look incredible as hatchlings, but quite a few of them kind of lose that vibrant color as they mature. But through, selective breeding, I know there are kind of more and more morphs now that, actually look better as adults. Can you talk about any of those or your experience with them?
Yeah, the ones that come off the top of my head would be Enchies, Vanillas, Fires. Orange Dreams is the big new one. I don't have that in my collection, so I can't speak offhand of what that does, but I know off the top of my head, those genes definitely mixed with other genes clean up things really nice, and they hold their bright, vibrant colors a lot better than other ones. Now, when something first comes out of the egg, I don't think you can really beat that because they're just going to be gorgeous. But I do believe that they tend to hold their color a little bit more as they age, kind of thing. So, yeah, question.
Yes, definitely. Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, yeah. No, I just wanted to see, take your opinion on the pricing of morphs and some of the changes we've seen over the last few years.
Yeah, I think it's crazy. Honestly, I think it's really crazy, but I think it's great because I feel like it's crazy because ball pythons have definitely exploded, and so many people are getting into it. I've heard that the big retail pet stores like Petco, PetSmart, and all them are going to be carrying, like, morphs. Like, I see spiders and pinstripes there now, and who knows what else we'll see later on down the years. And so I feel like ball pythons, it isn't so abnormal to be like, what? I didn't know they come in different colors, kind of thing. And with that happening, I also feel that that the market's a little all over the board at the moment. I still think it's great, but I feel like we do have a lot of, because it's not rocket science to, breed snakes or breed ball pythons. I can't speak for other species, but and so I feel like a lot of people are doing it and are attempting to do it. But with that being said, there's more being produced, and so the prices are gonna go down and all that great stuff. And like anything else, the banana is a great example, and it's such a hot topic that that they were selling for thousands of dollars years ago, and then now they're, fairly affordable. Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, are you asking me where do I think it's going, or just my opinion of it?
Well, that's the next question. Is what do you see? What do you predict for the future of it?
Oh man. Well, I haven't been in it as long as some of these other amazing breeders to really, because I'm sure they can see somewhat of a pattern and all that. But personally, I feel like it's really unstable now, just because a lot of people are jumping in, and I also feel like, unfortunately, a lot of people are jumping in too fast and maybe for the wrong reasons, and due to that, they get discouraged really easily. And then so it becomes kind of like a horrible cycle of, oh, well, I can't get the clutch I want, or, I give up because I had a female slug out or whatever, and then they just liquidate their entire collection. And I do feel that that hurts, but I feel that the people that it hurts the most are the newcomers that are coming in and not understanding that, this person just gave up, and so they, oh, yeah, well, I'll buy that for super cheap, and then, oh my gosh, it had an RI or whatever, and then they get discouraged. So that's really sad. And then, of course, they go to shows, and it's hard for, good breeders to say, well, I really, I know you saw on Craigslist or on, Facebook that Joe Schmo is selling his for this price, but you have to understand that, the reason behind it and all that. So I feel like it's a crazy time right now, but I personally think that in a few years, I think things will turn back around, because I feel like the people who are in it for the animals and for the love of their genetics and for the love of educating other people and not giving up so easily will still stay. So
Yeah, I would agree with that. What do you think about auctions?
Auctions?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I know to do an auction before, but I've bought from an auction before. I don't often, and I won't again. But I don't know. I do think it definitely makes the market a little pettier, but I understand the reason behind it. And we can't all just have a huge agreement. Let's not, sell our snakes like this. Every individual is going to have their reason behind selling a snake for why they sell it and all that. I personally, I think it's rough. Just because, if you're a person of your word and you start up an auction page, and let's just say it's like, you just started it up and it hasn't had a lot of, hasn't attracted a big group of people, and a few people bid on it and they get lucky and get it for something super cheap, then that person thinks that, oh my gosh, you bought your black pastel for $250, I got mine for $50 on an auction. And so it kind of spreads like wildfire. And I personally just think that a lot of people may just wait for a better deal on an auction and kind of claim that as market value. Rather than,
I agree.
Yeah. So it's a double-edged sword. I get why people do it. I understand it's a business. But at the same time, I wish a lot of people who do participate in that also understand that if you do see something from a breeder at a show that you really like at the value that it's supposed to be, buy it. I mean, don't wait for an auction animal just because you've deemed auction prices in your head as market value.
Yeah, and it's creating, and that's not just in ball pythons, but also in leopard geckos. We see it too, where it definitely changes the perception of what the pricing is, like you were saying. And it also, people just really frown on auctioning off live animals. They don't like they feel that auctions with cars or anything or other merchandise is fine, but when it's a living thing and you're, auctioning off to the lowest bidder, it changes, the morality of it changes. And
it does.
So,
I agree with you. I definitely, and even though I've bought a few auction animals, I don't know. I agree. It just doesn't.
Myself.
Yeah, and sometimes the deals are just really hard to pass up on. But for the public as a whole, I do feel that you're right. It does kind of, oh my gosh, well, I'll do $5 more on this, and I'll do $5 more on this, and it's like, well, what is that animal worth to you? Why can't you just buy it, at the show or through whoever advertised it for $250? Because you should buy the animal because you like the animal. And, of course, sure, buy it for its genetics and everything, but don't be upset if it doesn't produce for you or something, because after all, it's a living creature.
Right. I know.
I feel like auctions kind of gear more on the genetics you're buying, I guess, instead of a pet.
Well, I think we're going to see some changes in the future. I think, everybody is trying auctions. Well, not everybody, but we're seeing more and more people trying auctions. And it's like, all right, well, now it's not just one guy doing it. Everybody's doing it. So everybody's getting confused. Like, well, whose auction is do I want to go in? And everybody's all scattered all over the place. It's kind of like pandemonium, in my opinion. And I don't know. I like the traditional way of buying and selling. You deal with the breeder that you like and trust, and you go for animals from certain lines that you want, and you support your favorite breeders. That's what I like.
That's what I do. And back to the auctioning thing, anybody can do it. I mean, anybody can have a Facebook account, and it's kind of scary because, of course, a no-name person would probably sell not a lot of people would auction on it. And so, of course, that animal or that particular morph will go for a lot cheaper. It just kind of floods everything. So.
Right. I know. Well, we're going to likely see some interesting times coming up with all this going on. So, I mean, it is a transitional time in the reptile world. There's so many different things going on, and there's some good things and bad things. So I think we're living in exciting times for the reptile world. What do you think?
I think it's a test.
Yeah.
If you're doing it because you love to do it, then that's awesome. And it does kind of stink to, like, look at, you know, I don't know, like an animal that you bought, like a morph that you bought a year ago, and say, wow, I spent this much on it and it went down this much. Or if it's hard to move your animals because there's so much competition, and just in general, it's just people just aren't buying or whatever. And it is hard, but at the end of the day, you know, I got into this because I like the genetics and I like the snakes. And, you know, and I feel like this transitional time will just kind of make your passion for it stronger.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely. What I find very intriguing is if, you know, we're not the first, obviously, and not the only reptile-related blog talk radio show, but if you go back, I believe Reptile Radio was the first one, and if you listen to some of their shows from 5 years ago, they have the same exact conversation. What's going on with the market? You know, where is it going? What's going to happen? You know, there are a lot of people, you know, trying to dump their collections. And in my opinion, you know, it just grows and grows and grows. And it's cyclical, and people, you know, come into it for the wrong reasons, just as you mentioned, Kristin, and people get out of it. I think maybe perhaps more now because of social media and all the forums and everything. Maybe you see those people selling their collections as a whole more now, just because you might, you know, see it more often on the internet than you did in the past. But as you said, the people that are passionate about it are going to continue to be passionate about it, and overall it's just growing and growing and growing. And seeing specific morphs and specialty morphs of ball pythons in the big box stores, I think, are just going to grow the market. And if you just think about the numbers of those stores across the United States, and think about how, you know, if they put one morph ball python in every one of those stores, that's thousands and thousands of you know, of those snakes that they need to be supplied with, and they have to come from somewhere.
Right.
So that just increases the possibility for breeders across the board.
Yeah.
But just moving on, Kristin, we're you know, getting down to the end of the show. I just wanted you to mention a little bit about some of the other reptiles that you work with, and will possibly be breeding in the future.
Some other reptiles. Well, balls are my main thing, but I also keep hognose snakes, and those are so cool. I love them. They eat like crazy, and their personalities are just wild. So those are really cool. And I had house snakes. I got into house snakes for a little bit. I do have one Leachianus gecko. Yay! So, Gecko Nation. Yeah, I have one. I had a leopard gecko a while back, but for some reason, sometimes when you just keep a certain animal, you like it and it's all great, but it's just you're not passionate about it. So I had a leopard gecko, and it really didn't do anything for me. I mean, it was beautiful. I loved it, but it was just there, and I didn't have any breeding plans or anything. So, but for some reason, the Leachies, oh my goodness, I saw one from Mike. I can't say his last name, but he's from Alpha Geckos. He had a huge Leachianus at NARBC, and he just put it in my hands, and I was hooked. It was crazy. So I do have one leopard gecko. I have a Woma python. So yeah, I've kept a few species here and there. The house snakes are really cool. They're kind of like corn snakes, except I don't know. It's just a little bit different on them, and they eat like crazy as well, and they breed even crazier. It's not rocket science to breed them. You actually have to keep them separate just so that they stop breeding. It's crazy. And then in the future, I'll be hoping to breed my hog noses. So.
And it's the house snakes, I think, are one of those definitely underrated species that have been available in the hobby for so many years, and just something you don't see often. And I'm not really sure why. And there are even some different morphs out there. Did I see on your page that you have an albino house snake?
Yes, I had an albino house snake. And another thing about them is I think they're also locale-based, I believe. But mine were the Lamphoris. I don't know. No, Fertilingus house snakes. And, I had an albino, and then I had a female het albino. And I produced babies, and they were really cute. I got 2 albinos and 1 het, and then the rest she kind of slugged out. But yeah, they're just really cool little things, but they're definitely very flighty. Very flighty snakes.
And, Kristin, as I said, we're getting to the end of the show. Do you want to just give out your contact information and how people could find you and get in contact with you?
Oh, yeah, sure. I am on Facebook all the time, maybe a little bit more than I should be. And I know I have a page, Medusa's Balls, but to be honest, I'm more on my page. So you can just search me up by Kristin_Tran at ymail.com. That's also my email, and it's Kristin, Kristin, not E-N, and then Tran, Tran. So yeah, you can look me up there and send me a friend request. And if we don't have a lot of friends in common, just shoot me a message, because I get a lot of strange people adding me, and it's kind of unpleasant sometimes. So if you have like less than 5 friends in common and I don't recognize any of those friends, I just won't add you. Yeah.
Kristin, I don't know if you heard.
Kristin.
I don't know if you heard Dave and I speaking before we brought you on, but I have to say that I'm very disappointed having you on as a guest, because you didn't drop one y'all the entire show.
I didn't do what?
You didn't say y'all not once during the entire
really?
show.
I didn't?
And when we spoke before the show, it was one of the first things I recognized out of your mouth, and I couldn't believe you didn't drop any of them in the entire show.
Well, you didn't ask any questions that would require me to address you guys. Oh, well, there you go. I could have said to address y'all. I don't know, because it didn't come out. But I am staring at my boots right now, so I am 100% Texan, that's for sure. So, yeah.
That's cool. Well, you're an awesome guest, Kristin, and, it was a pleasure having you on with us.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. I don't know. I guess all I can say to everyone listening is just at the end of the day, just, I don't know, do what you love, I guess, whether that be a normal or whatever, Oh, can I tell a funny story before I leave?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. So back to Trouser, my first ball python. So I was living with my parents, and my parents were like, no snakes, right? So if anybody was wondering, like, how did I get away with that? I totally hid my terrarium with Trouser in it in my room. And at the time, I didn't know. I had a dome light, and I know that's like overkill for a 12 by 12, snake with a heat patch underneath. But he lives. He's good. But I had a red dome light. And whenever I wasn't home or something, I would turn it off. And I would always, like, kind of keep it on a chair, turn the chair around, put clothes, like, over the chair so you couldn't see the terrarium, just in case my parents went into my room. Well, one day, my mom, she went into my room, and I didn't turn off the light, and so it caught her eye. And my parents didn't know that I had a snake. And she went over there, and she found it. And when I went home, she said, "Kristin, I told you no snakes." And I'm like, oh, dang it, she found it. And she told me later on that she had thought that when she saw it, she was terrified, not because, she thought it was a snake. It's because she didn't know what it was. And when she looked in the terrarium, she saw, like, fake plants and stuff, and she thought that I was growing marijuana in my room. She thought I was growing marijuana in my room until she looked closer and then she saw the snake. So she was relieved, but I was like, oh, thanks, Mom. Like, what would make you think that? I don't understand. But yeah, so she was relieved and she was like, have you been bit? Is it poisonous? And I'm like, Mom, no, it's fine. And she's like, Kristin, they have rabies. And oh my goodness. To this day, she doesn't understand. She thinks that they'll show me affection on my neck and squeeze me to death. It's ridiculous. I try to educate her, but no.
So how do they feel about coming to your house now?
I have them all in the back room, so they don't see it. So it's fine. I think they've definitely accepted it. After I graduated college and I went full blown into the snake stuff, I did get a couple phone calls from my crying mother. Like, I kid you not, she's like, "You're a grown woman now. You have your own house. You need to grow up. Get rid of these snakes. They're stressing you out, and you have to like clean their crap. That's disgusting." And I just have to tell her over and over again, this is what I like doing, and it's hard. And I'm sure there's so many listeners out there and new people out there that have to go through, and even old people maybe, that have to go through the same stuff, just trying to educate people who just have a natural fear of it. But I don't know. If they still come to my house, if I bring it out, I would never bring it out to them, but they always say, you don't have them loose in your house, right? I'm like, no, I don't. It's okay. So for sure, it's fun though, and I don't know. I still do it. I just recently added my mom onto my Facebook. Originally, I deleted her because I post a lot of snake pictures, and she's just like, "Oh, that's gross," and then of course I'll get the phone call. I was like, "Stop!" And so I just recently added her again, and I think they get it. They get it. It's what I do. So yeah. Well, again, thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you so much, Kristin. You're a great guest, and we'll have to have you on in the future to give us some updates on what's new with you, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much, and you guys have a great night.
Thanks, you too. Dave, you still with us?
I'm here, Tim. I'm sorry.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I had to step away for a second, but what do you think? It was a great show. She's an awesome guest.
She was a great guest, and she was a little nervous before the show, but she did a great job, and we're really thankful to have had her on.
I'm nervous before, during, and after every show, so I don't know. How am I doing?
You're doing awful, Dave. Just hang it up now.
I know, right? I don't know. I think we're doing pretty good because our listenership keeps going up, so that's a good thing. So we're doing a good job for the community. And
it was nice to branch out into some new topiks tonight, and and
absolutely.
We'll be continuing to do so in the future.
Yes, we will. Tim and I were talking earlier about doing more shows like roundtable discussions with new folks that are coming in and getting their perspective on things. We do a lot of shows with top breeder interviews and prominent people in the community, but I think it's just as important to bring on the little guys and gals out there and have them on the show too. So that'll be fun. We got a lot of great ideas coming up in the future, folks. So stick with us. I think you'll be impressed. But all right, Tim. I guess I'll let you off the hook here, and I'll finish up the show.
All right. Have a good night, everybody. Take it easy, Dave.
All right, Tim. Talk to you during the week.
Bye.
Later. All right, folks. Hang tight. I'll be right back with my closing remarks.
Gecko Nation Radio is a David Fine Geckos creation and production. You can visit the show's Facebook page at Gecko Nation Radio. I also have a great family-friendly group on Facebook called Gecko Nation. Apply for membership today. The jazz music you heard tonight was generously donated and created by Jeremy Turgeon of J&D Reptiles. Thank you very much, Jeremy, for the great musical pieces. You can check out Jeremy at J&D Reptiles on YouTube and on Facebook. And a very special thank you to our news anchor, graphic designer, and audio tech, Steve Barker. All the graphics, audio sponsor plugs, and music overlays were assembled by Steve.
Check out Steve on YouTube at BC Barker Creations. He has some terrific videos for the herp community with amazing geckos and snakes. Please support the U.S. Herpetocultural Alliance and USARC. Gecko Nation Radio is proud to support both of these organizations. Please donate to USARC so that they have the funds needed to legally protect pet owners' rights nationwide. You can donate to the USARC Legal Defense Fund at www.usarc.org. If you would also like to learn about advocacy and how you can take action on a state and local level, please subscribe to the U.S. Herpetocultural Alliance newsletter and blog at www.usherp.org.
All right, folks, and it is the end of the show, and I'm looking in the call queue, and most of the callers have dropped off except for one, and that is Gecko Nation Radio's biggest fan, Miss Elsa Borzoi. Thanks, Elsa, for being the cool chick that you are and supporting the show like you do. It's great to have a diehard fan, and Elsa's awesome. But, so some of my closing remarks tonight, one of the things that I take away from the show is not only is it just fantastic to, speak about ball pythons and stuff, and add that to our list of topics that we discussed, but one of the things that sticks with me from tonight was something when we were talking about the market, and Tim brought up the fact that even 5 years ago, people had the same concerns about the market and the pricing and this and that. And I think, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, and this is my opinion, I think that human beings and the human condition is such that we are never happy, and we're always worried about the market, and we're always thinking it's the end of the world, and it's always this or that. But in the end, life just keeps going on, and the market just keeps going on, and everything just keeps flowing like it should. And I think if we just trust in that and just relax a little bit, and I know that veterans of all this realize it for what it is, and they don't get crazy and nervous and upset over it. Just realize it, that, like Tim said, there's ebbs and flows and ups and downs, and it's just part of the cycle. It's very cyclical. So, complaining and worrying and thinking that, nobody's going to buy these animals, this and that, that's not going to happen. And I just think as a whole, everything right now is in one of those downturns, but there's always an upturn. And usually it's at the worst point, or at least the point that people think is the worst point, everything takes a turn for the better. And I definitely see it coming. I have my moments where I'm kind of pessimistic about things, but I always wind up snapping myself out of it. Something happens, or, I talk to somebody and my perspective changes. Okay. So good luck, everyone. I hope everybody's 2015 season is great. I'm looking forward to mine, and looking forward to more great shows with you guys. Go ahead and see who's on the air with us next week. We have a really great lineup of shows coming for you guys. We're just going to be putting a lot of more diversity into the show as well. You guys should be happy. And if you guys have any ideas or topics or guests that you'd like to hear on the show, you can send me an email at geckonationradio@gmail.com, or mention it to Steve, Tim as well. All right, so next week on November 9th, we have Anastasia Haroldson from Netbug, and me and Daryl Burton are going to be talking with her all about arachnids, spiders, tarantulas, and all kinds of different insects that she keeps as well. She does mostly spiders, but she's got some cool stuff in her lineup, and you made a really cool intro video for her too. So looking forward to speaking with Anastasia. I love her. She's a doll. I see her at all the shows up here. After next week, we have Leapin' Leechies with Steve Cimelli, and that's going to be a great one, great show. Kristin mentioned that she has a Leechie, so I'm looking forward to learning a little bit more about them. And then after that, we have Travis Coos of Enigmatic Reptiles, and we're going to talk about satanic leaf-tail geckos, which are just totally impressive, and I'm totally considering getting at least a pair of them to play around with. I just find them fascinating. And if I get them, I'll get them from Travis, of course. I think he's doing great work with his. And if another guest in the future, we're going to have Calorique, the folks from Calorique that make FlexWatt heat tape. We have some upcoming interesting developments with FlexWatt that we're going to be doing a show about. I think you guys will be very impressed. FlexWatt is, of course, the best and safest and most energy-efficient heat tape in the world and in the reptile community. It's the most widely used and trusted heat tape. So don't be fooled by claims by imitators or people selling imitations. FlexWatt is still the latest technology and the best and safest for your racks. If you guys are buying racks and the manufacturer has switched to a knockoff of FlexWatt, you guys can still order that rack without the heat tape installed and message me or one of the FlexWatt distributors like the Bean Farm, Blake Kuros, Dale's Bearded Dragons. If you're up in Canada, Dino Reptiles, A+ Serpents, of course, they're in Massachusetts. And we have a few more. You guys can message them and tell them what you need, and they'll send you the good stuff. Because there's a lot of companies, big businesses, big rack manufacturers are switching to cheaper knockoffs. I mean, it's just, for them, it's more cost efficient. Unfortunately, the energy efficiency and safety isn't as great with those heat tapes as it is with FlexWatt. They'll work for you, though. You know, they're not going to be a total loss. But if you guys are really particular about how you're heating your racks, and if you're really concerned about having the safest products in your home, then you're going to want to switch to FlexWatt. And FlexWatt helped build the reptile industry and made it what it is today. All those big breeders did it with FlexWatt. So message me if you guys have any questions about it. Okay, and speaking of FlexWatt, we're going to have also ProTech Caging, Paul Edwards. Paul Edwards is revolutionizing racks. He's making incredible new style racks that are just so nice. We're going to have him on the show. He's going to talk about his new products that he's working on. So looking forward to the future, everybody. All right, I'm going to go ahead and thank my sponsors, and then I'm going to play a cool song and take us out. Number one, Dale's Bearded Dragons, Dale'sBeardedDragons.com. They are the biggest and best reptile supply distributor at all of the Northeast Expos, going from Maryland to New Hampshire. abdragons.com is your source for dubia roaches. Definitely check them out, AB Dragons. Use the code GECKO, all in caps, and you're going to get 5% off your order of the world's best dubia roaches. Supreme Gecko, Wally Kern. Awesome cresties. Awesome day geckos. Really nice stuff. And you've got supplies and stuff for them, too. So definitely check out Supreme Gecko. OhioGecko.com is by Mr. Thad Unkeffer, and he also runs geckoforums.net. And Thad's got some terrific tangerines, really cool starburst fat tail geckos. His own morph, okay, and a lot of other great projects. So check out OhioGecko.com. And if you're feeding a crazy bunch of animals that eat insects, you're going to want to feed them the best insects that you can find. Definitely check out Rainbow Mealworms. RainbowMealworms.net. Ask for Jillian Spence. Jillian is the worm goddess, I call her. She is awesome. She is a sweetheart. She will help you. She does a lot for the reptile community and the gecko community in particular. And definitely great pricing, high-quality worms. They're the biggest worm farm in the world. Check them out, RainbowMealworms.net. And if you're getting into shipping your animals, if you're a breeder that ships animals across the country, you're going to want to ship them as cost-effectively and as safely as possible, and with the company that has the best customer service. So get your FedEx labels from Reptiles Express, reptilesexpress.com. And if you're new to shipping, ask for Debbie Price, and she will talk you through it and help you figure it out. It's really easy. Ron Tremper. Ron Tremper is one of the biggest contributors, if not the biggest contributor, to leopard geckos. Okay, he gave us the bandits. He gave us tangelos. He gave us the Tremper albino, of course, and all kinds of other interesting morphs and marines. Now the new pastel raptors. Check out Ron Tremper at www.leopardgecko.com, and he's got a couple of great apps: Leopard Gecko Pro and Leopard Gecko Care, and a few more. Keith Higgins of GiantLeopardGecko.com specializes in extra large leopard geckos and all kinds of cool morphs. Check out giantleopardgecko.com. And MS2 Premium Insect Chow is the best food for your feeder insects. You are what you eat, folks. Make sure your feeder insects are getting fed right, so your insect-eating reptiles are getting fed right. Use MS2 Premium Insect Chow. Last but not least, and our newest sponsor, Daryl Burton of Longhorn Geckos. Daryl and his son Cade are building quite an impressive collection of bandits and tangelos, super tangelos, pastel raptors, white and yellow stuff, really nice wild types, anger manus, really cool stuff. So check out Longhorn Geckos on Facebook, and they have a website coming soon. All right, folks, that's it for tonight.